thank you for tuning in to episode 3 of the Thank You Notes podcast. First order of business, thank you to the 5 scammers who left me voicemails last week. If you'd like to send me a voicemail or a text, use phone number 469-609-7136 or email me at thankyouNotespod@gmail.com. Today's guest is Wayne McCullough. He's a Dallas native and he works in personal wealth management. A few years ago, he opened a CrossFit gym. I became a member and got to know Wayne, and this ended up being a huge positive influence in my life in regards to my personal fitness. We get into that in my thank you note. Unbeknownst to me, I asked Wayne to do this podcast the day after his mother-in-law died, with whom he was very close. I felt like a total jerk, but it ended up being quite fortuitous for both of us. For him to let the world know about this wonderful person, and for us to hear the beautiful poem and obituary he shares with us. It's become a running gag on the show that my thank you note gets annihilated by the guests, but maybe that's just me letting my guests look better than me. Let's get to my talk with Wayne.
My guy, I have a podcast too, I think.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like I'll have like 1,000 people listen to the thing when I put one up. It's called Simple Talk.
Okay.
Faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances.
Who do you do it with?
Kevin Ebeline is his name. He's an independent guy. He's got a cool little studio though.
Very cool.
Okay, before we get going, what's the genesis? Why? I understand what we're doing. Why?
I've always just been kicking around the idea of doing a podcast, and the idea of doing one about thank you notes just kind of stuck out to me because an attitude that I have is that good news doesn't get passed along as frequently as bad news. Like people will so much more freely share criticism than they do thanks. And I don't really like that that's the way that things are. So I came up with a short list of people from my life that I felt that I should, I have gratitude for. And this was just a way to, kind of check those boxes and do something fun and see what happens.
So this is pretty interesting timing, as I told you, because Lizzie's mother died, tragic chain of events. And so most people don't know I was an English major at UT, which is bizarre that I'm running a financial wealth firm. Not that really means anything, but I can assure you I was the only person in the fraternity that was doing that. So they tasked me with writing the obituary, which I've never written an obituary.
Yeah.
Never volunteer for that because condensing somebody's life into like 200 characters is impossible.
Oh,
and the worst thing you can do is start reading other obituaries and be like, oh, well, mine needs to have that. So, but it really is a love letter to Joni, who I had a deep care for. So there's really 3 things in front of me. Is one, I wrote the night she died, I wrote what exactly was on my mind to the children. My wife being one of them. And then this is really crazy. I'd prayed over Joni when she was very close to perishing. And I just prayed about that she is about to get to see the eternal sunshine, and she is my eternal sunshine. And then I woke up at I'll tell the story if you'd like, but I woke up like at 2:30 in the morning and wrote her a poem, and it just flowed out of me. And so I can read that if you'd like. And then I can read the obit. That was kind of my idea. But the timing's good because this is all a thank you for Joni's life.
So let's just start off with the first question. Do you write thank you notes regularly?
I do. Quite a bit. So the answer to that is yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a technique or?
So it's a great question. I've always been a thank you note writer. My mom is a Southern belle and really ingrained that us in a young age. And so I was literally probably like the only guy I knew in college writing people thank you notes if I went to their lake house, etc. What I've discovered is I have very little time on my hands, with 3 kids, very active, work. And so thank you notes begin to bog me down because I don't want to take the time to sit down and handwrite it. And as I've aged, my handwriting is moving its way towards atrocious. So, but Stuart Campbell, who I believe.
Yes, I do.
World, Stu Boat, as we'll call him graciously, he is an epic thank you note writer. And he said, Wayne, the note and the effort is important as the content. His thank you notes, thank you, Wayno, you rock, loved it. So I've gotten in the habit of, if I write one sentence, is so appreciated in a world that doesn't send thank you notes. And to your point, no one's really receiving great news anymore. So I have two ways now. I'm writing a very simple one sentence or two sentences, or I will type it on my computer. It's not as heartfelt, but I'm so much more efficient that way.
Right.
So yes, I still send thank you notes a lot.
I got the practice from my parents as well. I always like doing it. I still kind of like doing it, and I think they're important. Do you make your kids write them?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's not easy. I mean, I have a sophomore, junior in college, a senior in high school, and a sophomore in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And yes is the answer. And it's not as frequent as I would like, but that oftentimes is like, here's the note on the dining room table, right, with a stamp, like just write it. It can be two sentences. So yes. Something I'm cautious of, though, not this diverts from the kids a little bit, is you don't ever want to be like a thank you note for a thank you note, right? So
yes,
somebody would send me a thank you gift, and this happened with a friend of mine, and I sent him like a note, and he's like, no, that was a thank you note and a gift. You don't need to thank me for it. Because this loop will never end. It was kind of a funny way to look at it, but it's a lost art. There's no question.
I think there's a hierarchy of and I think the thank you note is kind of up there, and then once you get below that, you can do a phone call or a text or something like that. And I think for a thank you gift, I think you can send it, especially now with the smartphone, just send a picture or a thank you text or something. Hey, I got it, thanks again, and you can be done with that there.
Right, because I've discovered this quite a bit, and I send a lot of, like, Stuart's a good example. If you ever listen to this, he's just been so good to me in life. I sent him a gift card. Well, you just want to know that somebody received it. So the text, got the gift card, love it, is really helpful. It's always, Lizzie's going through this right now as we're going to discuss. She lost her mother. Like, she's doing her best. Now we're talking, she's overwhelmed, but any flowers that come, cookies, like, she's trying to immediately text, got the flowers, are beautiful, thanks. Just so the person at least feels, that
yes.
She could never write thank you. I mean, she could, and she'd probably write some key ones, but she literally would she'd writing 150 thank you notes, and it would be hard.
I remember when I got married, I was just, anytime we got something, a second it got there, I put it down, put it in the mail, and got it done. That way we weren't swamped with them. So there are times in your life, weddings, funerals, graduations, when the heap can get pretty tall. Next thing I want to talk about is how you and I met. Do you want to get into that?
Well, I mean, it's pretty. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. Is we met at CrossFit Katy Trail.
Yes.
Now, I'll be honest, I can't remember what drew you there, how you ended up there. Now, we had a handful of doctors. Now, I don't know if it's to that crew or it was our location or.
It was the location. I literally lived a block and a half from there.
Okay.
And I had been interested in CrossFit, and I tried it a few times and didn't like it, but I still wanted to do it. And I heard that there was a CrossFit gym not far from my place. So I gave it a shot, and you were in charge of that. And that's how you and I met.
Yeah,
so what was your relationship to CrossFit before you opened the gym? How long had you been doing it?
I was an early adopter. I'll never forget, I was in Florida, and a buddy named Travis Briggs sent me this real grainy video of like a guy in a garage throwing weights around, and it was it was made by CrossFit, but it didn't look like it. It was meant to be that way. And I think Radiohead's Creep was playing in the background. I don't know. I was just like, that's fascinating. I've never seen somebody work out like that. So Briggs is like, oh, it's coming. There's going to be a gym open up in Dallas. And that was CrossFit Dallas Central, which was really like one of the first gyms in Texas, and definitely the first gym in Dallas Fort Worth. And so, back to Stuart, not to bring him up constantly, I kept calling, no one would answer. Finally, I got a hold of this guy named Spencer Nix. And I told Stuart, I said, look, I'm picking you up at 5:15. We're going to go try this gym. And I picked him up 5:15. and went to CrossFit Dallas Central, falling down warehouse over on Dyer Street. We did this like pretty intensive warm up, and like Stuart and I are like heading for our backpacks to head out the door, and realized that was the warm up. And then, it's like Grace or something. Stuart's literally laying on the floor, like holding on to the floor. And it was 22 degrees out, doors were open. And from that day on, I was hooked. And that was, I was 10 years into the game by the time we started TFKT or something like that, CrossFit Katy Trail. So I'd been doing it quite a while. And my art I'd always been somewhat of an athlete, but had fallen way out of shape. Started doing some distance running, but just got tired of that and kind of was the skinny fat, a 180, but you're soft. And then the CrossFit, I fell in love with the community. It got me out of, you can't see me, but I'm in a button down and a coat. Like some of these guys have tats or, it's all walks of life when you walk into a CrossFit gym, really.
Right.
You might have a doctor, a Wall Street guy, and a carpenter or a college kid. So I appreciated all along the camaraderie as much as the fitness.
Right. Now, I know you played football in high school. Was fitness something that you kept up in college, or you said that's something that went by the wayside till you got into this?
Total disaster.
Okay.
And I a little bit here and there. I didn't become like obese, but I was a fairly decent student, but I went to the University of Texas, and that involved a lot of alcohol and eating a lot of foul food.
Yes, at late hours of the night.
Yeah,
I did my own tour of duty.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and get into my thank you note to you because it has to do with the way that we met. So this is I don't know if you can see it. It says thanks a bunch.
Oh, I can see that. Yes.
Yeah, bananas. All right. Dear Wayne, I wanted initially to thank you for creating CrossFit Katy Trail. It was the first time in my life I became serious about fitness as a part of my life, rather than a sporadic achievement like a marathon. It has been a hugely beneficial part of my life that has improved every facet of my life. I plan on tossing grandkids high into the air late into my 80s. I will have you to thank on that day. However, the greatest gift you have given me is your time and friendship. Dallas is not my hometown, but you invited me into your gym group text and helped my failed hangover business with countless opportunities and connections. You treat everyone you meet like family, and I truly appreciate it. I do miss the CrossFit Katy Trail days. I have never had more fun in the gym than I did at your gym, and I'm certain that was from your direction. Thank you, Dr. T-Mac.
T-Mac.
Yes.
So one, thank you very much. It's very kind.
Yes.
It's been hugely creative in my life. I love entrepreneurship. I love people think outside the box, and you do all of those things. That was awesome.
Well,
and
great.
And I have my Hangover Heroes shirt, and I think you were ahead of the game because now they're the freaking IVs are everywhere.
Yeah, they have me to thank.
Yeah, it blew up. So that camaraderie, and I need to add you to a other text thread. Like today, I've been getting more and more guys into my garage. I had 5 guys this morning, and I can't tell you how refreshing that is. Like Lizzie's like, you've been in the best mood. And I'm like, it's because I got guys back in my gym going out with me, not doing it alone. It's been really refreshing to get those guys back in. And by the way, full credit to CrossFit Katy Trail. I did not leave there because I was unhappy. Wayne and my son and I started lifting and working out together. And I had just to tell the current owners that I need to be with him as much as I can. And then now I can walk out my back door and
right.
So you'll see this. Kids are always watching, right? They aren't always listening, but they're watching. And my kids dig it. They're pretty healthy. Wayne loves lifting weights, Junior. Been beneficial to my life too. The people are what made the gym to
absolutely.
So
what about your other kid? Your oldest, does she in the weights and
so Charlotte,
fitness or?
When she would have been, and she would understand this, I wasn't sure where she would go from like a athletic fitness standpoint, but she loved golf and played golf up to her junior year, and then retired from golf to go and play hockey field hockey. Field hockey. Loves it. And then Millie will be running track in the spring. So,
oh wow,
yeah. But you give them their own path too. We are not the we're the opposite of over the top parents in that manner, if you can believe it, but we really are.
Let's get into the notes that you've written to your mother-in-law.
This is interesting, and I'm glad to be on here because it's a way for me to verbally record this. So for the listeners out there, obviously Travis told me to write thank you note. It was interesting timing. I lost my mother-in-law, let's just call it 10, 12 days ago. And it was an unusual son-in-law, mother-in-law relationship. Most are, I believe many of those relationships are just tolerated, right? My mother-in-law comes in town for 3 days. It's fine. But then, I want to move cities. I had a very special relationship with Joni Giacomini Croswell is her name, which is my wife's mother, partially because I knew my wife's brothers really before I ever knew Lizzie. Mm-hmm. Actually, Joni before I ever knew Lizzie. It's complicated, but they were all at Texas. When I was there, I became friendly with them. I would go to Dripping Springs, Texas, where she's from. We'd eat at Mexican Louis, then go by the house and see Joni. So I've known Joni, as I called her, the Joniac or the Jonester, for a really long time. When her death took place, it really kind of rocked me. She also had the most beautiful death experience I've ever been a part of. And you've probably witnessed it around death more than the average person. And it was the dignity in dying, which I'll reference. So to your listeners, this may be a non-typical thank you note, because what took place was, one, I prayed with Joni as she was, approaching her last days or hours. And one thing I prayed was just that she gets to see an eternal sunshine, and that she is my eternal sunshine. From that came, I do like to write. I have shelved it for a while, but I woke up in the middle of the night, pulled out my phone, and just typed out a poem to Joni. It was very well received by the children. I didn't share that with them until after she passed. So that took place, which was really a thank you note to her life. Then when she died at 10:02 p.m. on August 23rd, I wrote a note to the children, basically representing what I thought was just how I felt at the moment, which then led to them kind of letting me or asking me to take the lead on writing the obituary. Mm. So this is a little bit more expansive than your typical thank you note, but I think it's a good practice. Everyone's got to face this at some point.
Yes.
I would say Lizzie's gotten a lot of notes. It's still the same vein as a thank you note. If somebody, somebody close to them dies, a note is huge. A note, the flowers are fine and hugely appreciated, and the cookies, but a note. Love you, thinking about you. I know this is a hard time. I do that a lot, because I'll do it even more now. This is a really good timing, because you're thinking, oh, they're covered up, or you just don't have time. We'll make the time.
Right.
The little things matter. So I think if you would like, I will move kind of left to right on my papers in front of me, which is, because this is how it flowed. I wrote this poem, which sounds crazy, but I did. And then I wrote a note I sent to the family. Then I will just simply read the obituary.
Okay.
Because it is a testament and a thank you for Joni's life. Okay. So my eternal sunshine. My eternal sunshine. Your life was measured in smiles, crystals, and grandmommy kisses. You laughed, danced, and fulfilled the daisy bush wishes. My eternal sunshine. You changed the ground you stood on. You lived in the eternal springs, never doubting the beauty and struggle that life brings. My eternal sunshine. Joy was your gift. Laughter was your language, and your soul was made of pixie dust gold. Your love was relentless, your smile contagious, and your spirit was beautifully bold. My eternal sunshine. Feathers, elephants, beads, and a charm, the work of a mother that protected her children from harm. My eternal sunshine. It was a country road that took you home, our memories gathered around you. We felt your love, and we knew heaven was open, wholeness is here. The world will never forget you, as your path was so clear. You are the eternal sunshine. In loving memory of Joni Giacomini Croswell, the best human I've ever known. She changed my life from the first day I met her.
Wow.
I knew I might not get through it. I am forever grateful for Joni being true to herself, loyal to her 5 children, 14 grandchildren, and sharing her brightness and light. Onward, beautiful soul, our eternal sunshine. Wayne McCullough, 10:02 p.m., August 23rd, 2022, which is the time she died.
Wow.
Which I was in the room, which was fascinating.
That's the beautiful death of thing that you were surrounded by family, and
it's amazing. I mean, where there was 14 grandkids plus 5 children plus daughter and son-in-laws all in a room, not at her actual time of death, but prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I did not, her bravery, she was not afraid, like zero. It was amazing. So that night at shortly after 10:02 p.m. on August 23rd, I just wrote this very simple note. But to your point of, just getting the note down, text it to the siblings who I'm very close with. A life so well lived. I'm not sure I've ever seen so much love in my life. She taught her family how to live with joy and taught them to leave with a happy heart and great dignity. What a precious gift. She loved and cherished her family and friends. She loved beautifully and joyfully. Joni witnessed firsthand the restoration of a spirit through her love of life, family, and an intense dedication to the present. There is a piece of Joni in every gust of wind, every laugh, every hug. Her presence is eternal. There's a piece of her in me. There is a piece of her in you, and we are all better people for it. Wayne.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to gather myself.
Take your time.
So then that led into, of course, the family read that. It was like, that created the trap of, oh, that's pretty good. I don't know whether it is written, but they seem to think it was. So
yes.
Could you write the obituary? And I've never written one, obviously. So I should be able to get through this because it's a little more succinct. But I think what you'll see is really what I was trying to do is display her life in words without succinctly listing her life like a lot of people do.
Right.
Joe liked the garden and was a member of the yacht club and make it more poetic. And then weave in some references. So August 23rd, 2022, Joni Marie Giacomini Croswell passed on to the spiritual realm of angels at last in her eternal home. A life so well lived. She departed the way she had taught her family to live, with grace, dignity, and joy. A precious gift. Joni loved and cherished every person in her beautiful life. Mark Twain said, "Putting grief into words is futile, and trying to do so would bankrupt the vocabulary of all languages." While Joni's departure has brought grief, her infectious joy remains with us to comfort our hearts and ease our pain. Joni was born in Los Angeles, California. Her family later moved to Houston, Texas, where she spent most of her childhood. She graduated from the Kincaid School before leaving home for Marymount University in Arlington, Virginia. Not long after her time at Marymount, Joni, determined to return to the state she so loved, enrolled at the University of Texas in the fall of 1962. She was a Kappa Alpha Theta at UT and loved and was beloved by her sorority sisters. Joni married Henry Markley Croswell III and moved back to Houston. Their marriage brought together the Giacomis and Croswells, and the fun and love from the union of these families has grown and multiplied over the years. Joni was brave and bold, never shying away from a new path or direction. Joni would eventually resettle in Dripping Springs, Texas, where she would raise her children and reside for the remainder of her life. Joni restored a classical revival home that is living testament to her talent, beauty, and care. Joni's peace and calm radiate from the home that she so deeply loved and cared for. There is a strong social pull towards external measures, following a path others have paved, whether one enjoys it or not. The brave of us are true to our unique call, to being independent, to doing what brings us peace and happiness, and being with people who bring us true joy. Our Joni followed her heart, and the result has been contagious joy that has spread to all who have had the pleasure to have known her. Joni's loss leaves a massive void as her life and love are ever expanding. Her love and the love for her is so palpable you can quite literally feel it in your heart. The honor that we all feel to have been her grandchildren, children, and friends is even more indescribable. Joni, grandmommy, was kind-hearted, selfless, lively, vibrant, hilarious, and charming. Truly, there's never been nor there will ever be anyone quite like her. Her natural beauty was not on the outside, but always brightly shining from within. Anyone who knew her was immensely impacted by being in her presence, hearing her laugh, receiving her hugs, and the magic she so effortlessly displayed. Her smile could brighten a room, and her dance moves brought laughter. She held a space of warmth and acceptance to each human she met. In her final days, she remained utterly joyful, brave, and gentle. When Uncle Tom visited her, she asked him, did you bring your helicopter? Let's get out of here. Indeed, she did fly away bravely and beautifully. Her final words spoken to her grandchild were, I feel peace, so much peace. At last, she is in love in the loving arms of the Prince of Peace. There is a piece of Joni in every drop of rain, gust of wind, every laugh, every hug. Her presence is eternal. There are a piece of her in each of us who loved her, and we are all better people because of it. When the reunion comes, we will dance, do puzzles, bake fudge pie, work in the yard, play with dogs, listen to John Denver, all while smelling like Chanel No. 5. She will be in her pearls for eternity. Until we meet again, we will cherish every moment we had with her. Frank Otoski says that the two most important questions people ask him before death is, am I loved and did I love well? The answers for Joni are without measure. She was loved infinitely, and to be loved by Joni was to be loved like none other. She is preceded in death by her parents. She so adored Victor Virgil Giacomini and Catherine Thomas Giacomini. She is survived by her best friend and big brother, Tommy Paul Giacomini, who lovingly called his sister Kid. She's also survived by her 5 children and their spouses, whom she so cherished. I'll go ahead and list those. Catherine Croswell, Mark and Liz Croswell, Victor and Flora Croswell, Lizzie and Wayne McCullough, and Peter and Holly Croswell. She is survived also by her 14 grandchildren who adored their grandmommy beyond description. We will see you soon. We love you with all of our hearts. You are the eternal sunshine. Made it.
Wow.
So there you go.
You are correct in saying it's not like your typical obit, because you did focus more on her personality and the acts of her life rather than the events. So
correct.
You have full permission to write my obit if I
because Lizzie, my whole family, that's like 30 on a thread, and I've gotten like sides, like literally like sides. Like my sister's like, hey, will you make sure and do mine if I and I'm like, let's just not worry about that right now. I told my family, I said, it's easy. Writing is never easy. Like even writing a thank you note is difficult, but when you experience a human like this, you just literally write the reality, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Not like writing somebody. You know, I read obits where I knew some guy, and I'm like, okay, well, they had to make some stuff up there. So, oh man, it's good though, and I'm glad to. And thank you for giving the opportunity to verbally memorialize it, because I'll probably share this with the children and her children. They'll love it.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me and my dozens of listeners.
Well, we're gonna hopefully, when I send it around, if you allow me, I'll cross post it on my podcast.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Literally, I'll put it up on mine.
Okay.
It's really good timing, Travis, honestly, because the number of notes I've received by text or handwritten are epic. Not and Lizzie, and so it's really been a serious reminder to me. Like, do not be remiss on that, because a thank you note is more than a thank you note. It can be a condolence note or a congratulations note,
right?
And you'll never regret it.
No, you shouldn't. And the thing I always say is, it takes you how long to write? 3-5 minutes, find a stamp. It's like 15 minutes of work maybe, and you make somebody feel good for a day, a week, a month. Like,
I mean, we put multiple on our refrigerator. Mm-hmm. Anybody out there ever wants to reach me, it's WCM, the number 1 at me.com. Mm-hmm. WCM, the number 1 at me.com. And I mean, this is something I stand by. My brother and I lead a class, and he wouldn't mind me sharing. He's been through 3 severe depressions that just about put him in the ditch. So, you know, anybody out there struggling with anything, I have no problem if you email me. I'll see if I can get you some help.
That's very nice of you.
Yeah.
Well, Wayne, I very much appreciate you sharing that. That was touching.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we'll continue talking on the group text.
Okay.
All right.
Farewell.
Thanks again, Wayne, and my condolences to you, Lizzie, and your whole family. We gotta love people as hard and as well as we can while they're here. Tell someone thank you. It means a lot to them, and it will probably mean a lot to you too. Like the page on Facebook, Thank You Notes Podcast. I'm also on Instagram at Thank You Notes Pod. My phone number is not just for scammers, it's for my dozens of listeners as well. 469-609-7136. Call or text me a thank you note for anyone you think deserves one, and I might read it on the air. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.
Of this beautiful land, but that beautiful